everyone. My name is Amy Warnock, and I'm an Environmental Quality and Education Manager with the Fulton County Department of Public Works. And part of my job is to teach people about water and why it's so important for us to have clean water. One of the reasons why clean water is so important where we live is because people depend on water to survive, and also other living things like plants and animals have to have water to survive. So today we're going to learn about one of my favorite animals, and we're going to make a craft so that you can look like one of my favorite animals. And that animal is the great blue heron. So great blue herons are birds. They're very large birds. They have long beaks. They have really long necks, and they have really long legs. So they stand in the water with their long legs. They stand very still and use their eyes to search for food. And then when they see something that they want to eat, they will dart down and grab it with their long beak. Now, it's really important for great blue herons to have clear water to see their food, because if the water's too murky, they won't be able to know what's in there. They rely on their eyesight instead of their sense of smell or their sense of touch to find their food. They're using their eyes. So they're really heavily dependent on their sense of sight, and because of that, they need to be able to see through the water. So that's one of the reasons that clear, clean water is so important for them. Now, great blue herons are native to Georgia, which is our home state, and they're actually really common even in the Atlanta area. And you can see them flying overhead sometimes. If you see a large bird going overhead, you might be able to notice them when they're in full flight. They take their neck and they bend it like an S, like a curve back. They bend their head back on their body so that their neck's not sticking all the way out. And they will stick their legs straight back behind them. So if you see a big bird up in the sky with long legs behind it, it might be a great blue heron. So I'm going to show you all the things that you'll need to have before we get started. And then I'll show you what's in your packet from the library. You can pick these materials up from your local library if they still have some left. And then I'll show you how to make it. Okay. In your envelope from the library, if you open it up, you can just empty everything out onto your table, and we'll take a look at what's in there. You might have to open it up to get all the last little bits of stuff out of the bottom. And you should have some feathers. You should have one set of eyes, googly eyes. Or you might have some sticker eyes in your heron packet, but you should have one pair of eyes. And then you will have a template. This is what we're going to make your hat out of. So you should have this folded in half. And then you will have your set of instructions. Now there's 2 pages here. The second page has our fun facts about herons, and it has some cool pictures of great blue herons on the back of it. And the first page tells you everything that you need, and it also has your instructions. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to want to make sure you read all your instructions first, and also make sure that you have everything that you need with you when you get started. So I'm going to walk you through that. So obviously you'll need the things that came out of your packet, but there's a few other things that you need as well. All right. So make sure you read those instructions before you get started. And the very first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and knot our strings. We're not ready to use them yet, but we're going to go ahead and knot them, and then we'll set them to the side. So you're going to take one end of the string, just one end, and this is just one string. We're not tying them together. And you're going to tie some knots in here, and just tie several so that you can make it into a larger knot. So you just make a loop, pull the end through, and pull it tight to make a knot, And then you want to do the same thing kind of right on top of that. Make a loop, pull the end through, and pull it tight to make a knot. So just do a few more. Make a loop, pull the end through, and if you need time to work on this or practice it, just pause the video and you can take as much time as you need. So you're going to put that in one end of your string, leave the other end open, and set that to the side. And then we're going to do the same thing with our second string. When you have both strings knotted, you're going to set them off to the side and we will start working on our hat. So the template that comes in your packet, you can feel it's on really nice thick paper so that it will be a little sturdier, and it should already be folded in half. So you can just run your thumb along here to crease that and make sure that it stays, you get a good line there, a good crease in it, because then what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it up. So unfold it like this and put it down in front of you, and we're gonna color our heron hat. Now, before you start coloring, let me show you this top part. So in between here and over on the edge here and over on the edge here, we're gonna cut that out later. So there's no reason to color this part in. You wanna focus on the heron's head here. And then this is gonna be the part that wraps around our head to make the hat. So you can color this part and really focus on the heron's head here. And while we talked about great blue herons, they have that kind of gray-blue coloring. The really wonderful thing about art is that you can make it whatever you want it to be. So the heron that we were looking at was a great blue heron. Yours could be a wild purple heron or a neon orange heron. You can color your bird however you want to. So you take your time coloring, pause the video, and just start back up once you get finished. Okay, once you have your heron hat colored in, the next step before we cut it out is going to be to add the eyes. So if you have sticker eyes, you'll just peel the back off and stick them. You can put them right over the eyes that are here. If you have googly eyes, what you'll need to do is put some glue on. So if you have bottle glue, you can just put one little dot on the back of it and stick it on the eyes. If you have a glue stick, the easiest thing to do with a glue stick is to put the glue right there on the paper and then stick the eye on top of it. So you just put a little bit of glue on if your eyes need glue. Stick the eye there and just kind of hold it still, count to 10, and then do the other one, and then be gentle with them while they dry. Now we still have our feathers, but we're gonna get to those later. Before we put the feathers on, we need to go ahead and cut out our heron hat. So the way that we're gonna do this, it's up to you. You can leave it unfolded and cut along this line, or you can fold it in half and cut it together. Now be very careful with your scissors. Remember, we always want to be real careful with our scissors. Make sure that you're not holding the paper near where you're cutting. So I'm going to hold over here and I'm going to cut along this dark line. And I'm going to go all the way around to the middle here. And if you need help from an adult, just ask. If you need a little bit of extra time to get your hat cut out, just pause that video. Now, if you have folded your hat in half to cut it, when you get finished, you might want to turn it over, look at the other side. Sometimes it doesn't match up exactly, so if you want it to be real nice and clean, you can trim that part off, of course. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add our strings to help us tie the hat on. And those strings are gonna go in the sides here. So this is gonna be our hat, and we're gonna put strings in the back to tie it on with. Now, obviously there's nowhere to tie your strings right now. That's what your pen or pencil is for. You're gonna make a tiny little hole in your paper. You don't want it to be a really big hole, so don't use your scissors to cut. You're just gonna take the tip of your pen or pencil and do this on the table. Don't poke through, you don't wanna poke yourself in the finger. You're gonna do this on the table. You're just gonna take your pen or pencil and you're gonna put it through right here near the edge. You don't wanna put it right on the edge because we wanna make sure that we don't rip our paper when we put the strings through, but you're gonna put it here close to the edge and you're gonna put one on the other side to match it. So go ahead and poke those two little holes in your hat template and then we'll put our strings through. All right, now that you've got your holes poked, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take those strings that we tied up at the very beginning and we're gonna put them through the holes on our hat. So the way that you're gonna do this, don't use the knotted end, that's gonna be the back. You're gonna use this open end here. You might have to twist it around a little and poke it through the hole. If you have trouble, sometimes what can help is if you take a tiny piece of tape and you put it at the end of your string, and it's almost like the plastic piece on the end of a shoelace, and it keeps the string from coming apart, and it can help you put it through the hole. So take your string, put it through the hole, and then you're gonna pull until your knot is there at the hole. Don't pull too hard because you don't want to pull through and rip the paper. So just be real gentle and pull right until your knot is there at the end. And then you're going to do the same thing with your other string on the other side. Now once we've got both of our strings pulled through, we want to secure them. We want to make sure that when we're tying our hat on or taking it off that they don't just rip right through. So we're going to do that with some tape. So what you're gonna do is take your tape, your transparent tape, and you're just gonna tape the string down. And that will help keep the knot from pulling through. You can use a couple of pieces if you need to just hold that in place. And that's gonna make it a little more secure and make our hat last a little bit longer. So now we have our hat is ready to go. We've got our ties hanging off the bottom of it. We've got our string taped down so it's a little more secure. And now what we need to do is fit our hat. This is easiest to do with two people. So what you might want to do is ask someone to help you. You can pause the video, ask an adult for help, and you're gonna put the hat on and hold it in place, and they are going to tie it around the back of your head. Now when you tie the hat on your head, you don't want to tie it in a knot because then you might not be able to get it off later. So you're going to tie it with just a regular bow. Just a regular bow like you might use to tie your shoes, not a double knot or anything like that. That might take a few minutes for you to get your hat to fit right. So make sure that you just pause the video, you take your time, and come back when you've gotten that done. Okay, now that you've got your hat tied, we're kind of starting to look like a heron here. So you can see there's lots of hats sticking up on top of your head here. Now if you have a lot of hair, or if you wear it on top of your head, or if you have a hat that you wear up there or anything like that, you might want to leave your hat open to just make space for that. But if yours is really loose, what you can do is take the top part, squeeze it together, and then you're gonna gently remove the hat from your head. Where you were squeezing it together here, you can take your stapler. You can ask for help for this if you need it. Take your stapler, and you can also use tape. And just staple along the edge here, and that will hold it together. Watch your fingers, make sure that we're not stapling ourselves. So you can staple along the edge, or you can just put a little piece of tape up there if you want to hold it together that way. And again, this part is optional. So if you need extra space or you just want your hat to be open, you can leave that part open. You don't necessarily have to staple or tape it. So go ahead and untie your strings here. Just pull the end. If you just tied it in a bow, you should just be able to pull on the end and it will come right loose. So undo that. And the last thing that we're gonna do for our hat to make this really and truly look like a heron is to add our feathers to it. And put a little bit down where you want the feather to go and then stick it on. Or if you have bottle glue, just put a little dot where you want that feather to go and stick it on. So I'm gonna put a feather right here. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of glue, and then I'm gonna take my feather and I'm gonna stick it on there. And I like for mine to kind of stick off the back, just like it was a real heron, but you can put yours wherever you would like to. If it's not quite sticking, you can put a little more glue under it. And we can do this one side at a time and let it dry. So take your time with that, pause the video, and come on back when you're finished. So once we get our feathers all glued down and everything is dried, now if you really struggle with getting your feathers to stick to the glue, you can always tape them down, or you can even staple them. But once all your feathers are on there and your glue's dried and it's ready to go, you want to get someone to help you again and put your hat on and have them tie that bow around the back of your head, and you'll be ready to go. All right. So now we've got our heron hat colored, we've got our eyes, we've got our feathers. Now we are looking like a fancy flock of birds. So I hope you enjoyed making this heron hat with me today. Before I go, I am going to teach you guys a song that you can sing about herons with your heron hat. And the words for this song are on your paper that came in your packet, but I'm gonna sing it for you in case you don't know the tune. So it goes like this. I am a heron, here's my hat. Water is my habitat. I'm slow and I'm quiet and I do not swish, because I am looking for a fish. So that's our heron hat song. So again, my name is Miss Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today to make this heron hat. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoy singing your heron song, and I hope you learned a little bit about one of my favorite animals and why it's so important for us to help make sure they have clean water. Thank you.